Seven, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
You'll never have the sacred stone.
All right, welcome into the first ever edition of the Vegas Squares where you can actually see our faces. And I know it is frightening, but have you ever seen Spike and Gritty in the room at the same time?
Fuck. Yeah. This is getting real bad. I need to see a barber, and this shutdown needs to be over so I can do that pretty quick.
Yeah, I shaved earlier because I was like, you know what? Haircuts are going to come at a premium here, depending on how long this goes. But I'm growing the quarantine beard again. Not sure how long I'm going to let it. I'm doing it in honor of the hockey playoffs that we're not getting right now.
There you go. Yeah, that you should be in the baby stages of the playoff beard at this point.
I feel like we should be right around like game 3 and 4 of some of these series.
Yeah, I know this 2 years ago was game 4 of the round 1 Vegas versus LA, because I just got the Facebook reminder because Emily and I were there.
This was the double overtime one, or that was
no? This was the 1-0 win in LA to clinch the series.
Yeah, most definitely. So, all right, well, let's thank the sponsors here before we kind of dive in. This is kind of uncharted territory for us, but I have been playing around with a lot of technology over the last few days, and maybe something good will come of this for the future of the Vegas Squares. I want to thank the sponsors, 12 Ounce Sports Radio, where we air, as you can see us. Catch them on Twitter at 12OZ Sports. You can catch us on Twitter at Vegas Squares. Also want to thank Seat Giant, promo code 12 Ounce Sports for your discounted sporting event, concert, and theater tickets. All right, well, we got that out of the way. If you want to sponsor the show now that you can see our pretty mugs, shoot us an email at vegassquarespodcast@gmail.com or hit us up on Twitter again at Vegas Squares. So, Spike, before we dive into some sports topics, like you said, you're ready for the quarantine to end. I know you're still working.
Yep.
But what do you do otherwise when you punch out, theoretically?
It's not a lot. So I built a desk, which you can't see. Well, you can see part of it here.
See the corner.
Yeah. But yeah, it's a U-shaped desk. It's actually 3 desktops that I kind of sawed. I don't know what the past tense of the verb to saw.
Sawed them together, yeah.
I sawed them, stained them, finished them, did the thing, assembled it. This thing is so strong, the house could fall down and this desk will still be standing. So I'm pretty proud of the desk. I've got the 3 monitors set up right now, including one that's got the Overwatch League live right now, San Francisco at Dallas. San Francisco should run over Dallas, but they're actually losing right now. I've got a really good work from home setup, so I'm feeling all right. But otherwise, it's like, the fuck do I do? Like, we play with the dog, we binge watch shows, we just braised a pork butt or pork shoulder, whatever it is. That took like 6 hours. So
where'd you braise it in the oven?
Yeah, so start on the stove, and then you throw it in the oven, and then you got to flip it over every half hour or so. But the problem is the Dutch oven that we have isn't big enough to hold this thing because it's an 8-pound sucker.
Yeah,
and it's just like the work that it took my wife and I to flip it and actually maneuver it in this little Dutch oven was something to behold by the end.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I use the smoker for my pork butts, and I know that takes upwards of 10 to 15 hours. Those things have a mind of their own. So.
Yeah, no, they're ridiculous.
All right, well, let's dive into some sports here. The funny topic that I saw come out that I don't know if you've seen this regarding Joe Buck. I know that everybody's kind of 50-50 on if they like Joe Buck or not, as an announcer. Are you a yes or a no on Joe Buck?
I think Joe Buck is low-key one of the funniest announcers out there.
I feel
And
like he's a kind of a troll. Yeah.
yeah, he is kind of a troll. He does get a lot of shit, and some, maybe it's deservedly so, because I think everybody out there feels that Joe Buck is not a fan of their team, and therefore they don't like him. Where at the same time, when you get announcers like Jack Edwards for the Bruins, who's a legitimate homer,
Right.
people hate him for that. So it's kind of a weird dichotomy between these two announcers. But no, I think Joe Buck has always been kind of funny, kind of a troll. He knows that people don't like him for whatever reason, so he always kind of plays on that. I saw a clip today of him where in Johnny Manziel's rookie year, like Joe Buck was announcing a Seattle Green Bay game or something, and he was just shitting all over Johnny Manziel for 30 seconds for absolutely no reason. It was just, it's bizarre. It's funny. I enjoy him probably more than I should.
Yeah, I think I have to agree with you on that. I kind of enjoy him as well myself. I get where you're coming from. You're right. He does feel like everybody probably shits on him because he's like he homers against the other team. When realistically, I think him and Aikman, even though despite Aikman's career as a Dallas Cowboy, have been two of the more objective commentators that we have in the MLB, or excuse me, the NFL, and then Joe in the MLB as well. I think Joe actually brings kind of a life to baseball, which a lot of people deem boring, especially when he calls playoff baseball. It's, to me, he makes baseball more entertaining for the casual fan. I can watch it on mute, no big deal, but I think he brings a certain kind of class, professionalism, but at the same time does throw in those subtle digs. I remember when him and McCarver were on the baseball games and McCarver's kind of mind started to go, and Joe picked on him a little bit, and I remember him getting shit on it. This was before social media was what it is today, but I remember, him kind of shitting on McCarver, and then he didn't realize that, McCarver's mind was Joe Bidening itself. But let's dive into this topic. I mean,
Yeah.
it's so off the wall, but it's fantastic. And part of me wishes the troll inside of Joe Buck would have accepted this. But if you haven't heard, basically Joe Buck turned down an offer to do play-by-play for a live porn like webcam site. The site is I Am Live, an adult web company. Apparently Buck jokingly volunteered to do some play-by-play on porn after somebody tweeted at him about it. And I think I Am Live, or I'm Live, I don't know how you say that, maybe saw an opportunity to capitalize on it. Unfortunately, Joe Buck has declined the offer. Do you think, could you imagine, come on, we're all men, we watch porn, but could you imagine watching a porn and having, Joe Buck? Well, first of all, can you imagine play-by-play for porn?
Yeah, that was kind of the bigger issue, is the play-by-play for porn. It's exactly what blow-by-blow do you want him, pardon the pun.
No pun intended.
Do you want him to actually be talking about? Is that going to detract from the noises that are being made otherwise? And is that something that people enjoy, or do they want those, the natural sounds covered up so that people can hear the au natural thing? I don't know what people enjoy with porn. I know what I enjoy, but I don't know what other people enjoy.
Can I ask you a off the wall but serious question?
No. Yeah, go ahead.
I just, something I've noticed, I don't know how men feel. This is going to get weird, so if you're easily offended, turn off right now. But
how long have you known me, and do you?
I'm speaking to our listeners.
Oh yeah,
listeners.
Yeah,
can't get my hands around, quote unquote. So, after you're done doing your deed with the porn on, do you find it kind of repulsive and turn it off immediately?
Oh yeah. Oh, of course.
It's the weirdest thing.
Well, I grew up Catholic, so obviously the shame and regret comes in instantly, and then all of a sudden you see all this dirtiness in front of you, and again, 3-monitor setup. So now I've got all of these other windows that I have to shut, because it's not just one; it's like 7 or 8 that I have to close at a time. But yeah, no, it has to get closed immediately.
I know, and it's not even like a hiding it thing. You're just like you're done. You're finished. You look at it. You're like, gross.
Yeah. It's like, oh, what was I thinking? Oh God. Oh, I'm never doing that again.
Yeah. 15 minutes. It's like the SpongeBob. 15 minutes later. But I mean, I can see a demographic of people now. Follow me on this path. I can see a demographic of people who could enjoy the play-by-play of Joe Buck announcing porn.
So
Blind people.
Well, okay. I mean that is something, and
Do blind people watch porn?
I have to imagine they do. And I'm sure. It's
Well, I guess they
more
don't
of
watch it. Do blind people hear porn?
Yeah, I was gonna say it's probably more of an auditory thing than anything else. But
Do you like braille it? Sorry, I'm sorry. This is offensive.
Anyway,
You can't even respond to that.
I mean, it seems like for that specific group, yes, that would be something that, to have that kind of narration and to have that going on, as opposed to just the typical noises, grunts, moans, whatever. I assume that would add some kind of value to this, but I can't imagine that Joe Buck specifically is the guy that they are pining for to hear announcing.
What about Gus Johnson or John Madden?
John Madden, Jesus Christ.
Flipping it in the butt. Boom!
Oh, this is terrible. But I think that you're missing the funniest line from his refusal to do this.
Okay.
Which I don't know if you saw, but his actual quote was, if this company paid me, they'd be paying me with my own money.
Yes, I did see that.
Yes. And I think that is kind of a weird flex to Joe Buck to admit that he pays for porn in this day and age. But hey,
Well, those cam shows, those chicks charge, right? I mean, I don't know. I can be honest. I mean, we've all watched porn, but I don't think I've ever watched a cam show. I think that might be a little bit technologically advanced. I mean, Pornhub gives it for free. Why would you pay?
Yeah, well, and that's I think, and I don't know about that site specifically, but I do know of other
he does
sites.
He does say, depending on which site, they could just be handing my money back to me. The bad part is, he said, I'll hold out for a better offer and hold on to my day job.
Which is a great line, which is exactly what we want to hear from Joe Buck, because, again, he's kind of a master troll and kind of under the radar, super funny.
Right, but at the same time, if you don't know anything about the guy, just by looking at him, he seems like he could be super uptight, too.
Oh, for sure, which makes it even funnier.
Right.
And I think that makes the trolling that much better. And I appreciate what he did with that line, and kind of let him down gently too, which is in and of itself kind of an art form.
Here's a tweet from Buck later. Today, this 17th day of April in 2020, I became the first sports announcer to reject a 7-figure offer from a porn site. You're right, dude. He's the ultimate troll. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, no, I appreciate him.
Put yourself in Joe Buck's shoes. If you were a man of his stature, do you see this? If he took the offer, do you see this kind of backfiring, like publicity-wise? I mean, obviously, like you said, the Catholic thing. There's a lot of people who believe porn is just, the devil's work.
For sure. Yeah, I think there's always going to be a group of people that don't like what you do. I think the fact that he even responded to this company is going to have a little bit of a negative backlash, like people that think that he shouldn't even acknowledge this company's existence.
Right.
They're going to come out of the woodwork and, kind of cry themselves to sleep. But I think if he had done it, that he could have faced a lot more backlash. So, he could have just said, no, thank you. He could have ignored the request altogether. The fact that he did it in such a funny way, I think is actually going to be to his benefit, because for the backlash that he's going to get from the people that don't like it, there's going to be significantly more people like us that are happy that he did it, that are going to laugh at it, that are going to, he has endeared himself to more people this way. And I think this was the perfect approach for him.
That's fair. Yeah, I'm hoping that as long as sports aren't going on, that maybe he'll reconsider. Maybe if we're sitting here in June and we've got nothing to comment on, at least baseball, football wise, that maybe he'll consider
Well, that's the thing. Like I
lacing
said,
them up for the porn.
I'm watching the Overwatch League right now in San Francisco. San Francisco can't get out of their own fucking way. It's Dallas, for God's sake. They stink. You can do this. But
I imagine you have a wager on that.
I had a parlay with Paris, Boston, and San Francisco. Paris lost, Boston lost, and now San Francisco, who are a 1-12 favorite, by the way. They were that heavily favored that they were paying off 1-12. I threw them in there just to get the third leg of the parlay in. And they're losing to Dallas right now, which is ridiculous. But can you imagine Joe Buck actually announcing something like the Overwatch League or League of Legends,
Right.
or even like a Counter-Strike Go, like something like that, having him do a sport like that, I think would be fascinating.
Could be.
Just-
I always give credit to like Mike Tirico. I feel like you could throw Mike Tirico into any sport, give him about 2 hours of prep time, and he could probably call a good game, match, etc.
Dale Arnold, he had a radio show in Boston. I think he still does, actually. He was a play-by-play guy for the Bruins for a number of years before Jack Edwards came in. But Dale Arnold has actually announced all 4 major sports. He did the Patriots game, he's done the Red Sox, he did the Celtics, and he did the Bruins.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact, he's a knowledgeable guy. He, like I said, he's been on the radio, so like he followed the sports. It's not like he went into any of these things blind. But yeah, I think like a guy like Mike Tirico, like any of those guys that are really talented could probably pick up something like an esports league and at least do some kind of they wouldn't know the in-depth thing. Like they wouldn't know whether they should use like a Diva or Reinhardt for tanking.
Also, you got the color guy for it.
Yeah, exactly. So you would have the guy to fill in the gaps and like why they're doing these things, the strategy thing. But for everything else, I think a guy like Joe Buck could do this and do it very, very well.
Or porn.
Or porn. Yeah, exactly.
All right, staying on Twitter here, we got, I don't know if you saw this news either. There was a couple days ago a Twitter post by a Twitter troll, as we're using the term troll, who I guess ghosted himself as a Sports Center logo on his on his Twitter account and said that the Jets had signed Colin Kaepernick to a 1-year, $9 million deal.
Yes.
And that shit spread like wildfire.
And it was retweeted by all of the major outlets that wanted to be the first ones to say that they got it out first or they retweeted it first without actually looking to see who it was that was putting it out there. And it's, they use the Sports Center logo. They even say, per whoever, Mel Kiper, some major good source. And they, link to that person's Twitter and like they put it up there so it looks really official. But the Twitter name of this account that's doing it is something batshit crazy. I forget exactly what it is.
I think it's called Barry McCockiner.
Yeah, it's something not great. And all of these companies went out and they started reporting it without, and I think this is key and this is why it spread so far, without actually linking back to the original tweet because they didn't
retweet their own. They didn't want to give that guy credit.
Exactly. They didn't want to give him credit, but they would say, like, if he said per Mel Kiper, then all the other stations would say per Mel Kiper and link it that way. So they never went back to the original, the guy putting out this tweet in the first place. They would put it out to whomever he credited. And that's something else. All right.
It's just wild that I know that Twitter is such an instant source of news, but it just plays to this fake news, world that we live in, that you have to literally, believe half of what you hear and less of what you see. I mean, it's so easy, regardless of who the person was, but obviously he knew that Kaepernick would, draw that kind of attention, especially since he's been on the league. What has it been 3 years now?
I think 3 years. How do you use a death blossom right there? Are you fucking kidding me? God, that Reaper stinks. Anyway.
That's great for the show.
Sorry. Whatever.
What is Overwatch? What is that?
So it's a team-based game where there's heroes on either side, and it's basically the heroes play different roles. So there's a tank role, which is the big guy in front that can't do a lot of damage but can take a lot of damage. There are the attackers, there's range damage, there are healers and things like that. Essentially, depending, and depending on what kind of map you're on, it's either like you're defending an objective or you have to move this certain waypoint from one side of the map to the other, and then the other team is there to either take the objective or to stop you from moving this thing, or and they all have special different abilities and they can blow shit up. And it's really a very team oriented game, so you can't just like be a superstar and go out and do your thing. Like, you really have to watch the people around you. You have to, there's strategy, there's different ways that you can play different maps, there's different heroes that are good for different situations. It's really about hey, San Francisco finally won one, you fucking bums.
I thought your parlay's dead anyways.
Yeah, I know, whatever. I'm still rooting for him at this point. I don't know why, but just so I don't go like 0 for 3 in a parlay.
Might as well.
Yeah. What was I saying? I forget. Oh yeah, so it's a very team-based competitive game where it's about strategy, it's about picking the right heroes, and it's about being able to accomplish your objectives within a certain time frame. And it can get dicey, it can get tricky to play.
Fair enough. I play Grand Theft Auto online, and I get killed all the time.
There you go. I haven't played the online one. I just played the single-player version. I stink at that too, so it's not even great.
Yeah, I'm not very great at it. Most of the time when I'm not playing that, I'll play NHL 2020 online, which I find I'm a little bit better at.
Okay. I got to try that because I think the last NHL game I had for any video game system was on probably like 03 on the PlayStation 2.
Yeah. What do you use now? Xbox?
No, I have a PS4, but I haven't actually turned it on in probably a year and a half.
Well, you might want to make sure it still works.
Yeah, maybe.
But Kaepernick, back to the. It is amazing how he's been out 3 years now.
3 years, yeah.
So I mean, you see how many people are in his corner willing to retweet that, and like I've made my stance known here too. I mean, he's good enough to play in the NFL. I don't know about 3 years later, but at the time, if anybody wants to give him a shot, go ahead. But it's amazing how quickly that spread. I don't know of any other news sports-wise that could spread that fast unless, like, LeBron James was making another decision.
Yeah, it seemed like people were really willing to believe it. I think part of it, too, is, like you were talking about, the fake news and, believe half of what you read and all that. But I think part of it too is that people are just so starved for sporting news in the first place.
It's true. He caught a nice moment.
Yeah, it was just kind of a perfect storm for him to be able to get in there and have such a captive audience that he could trick everybody like that.
Yeah, I'm reading an article right here that said within 2 hours, he had 8,000 retweets and 15,000 likes.
Wow, that's ridiculous.
And that was just his particular posts. So
yeah,
the fake post. I'm sure the likes and retweets were probably from all the other news outlets as well.
Oh, I'm sure. And like I said, they really didn't do their due diligence because they saw this tweet, they saw it credit somebody. I keep saying Mel Kiper, but I know it's not Mel Kiper. Who's the other?
It was Adam Schefter.
Adam Schefter, that's the one. It credited Adam Schefter and actually added him in the tweet, but nobody actually went to Adam Schefter's page to verify that it was correct. And that's ridiculous. I mean, how do you not fact check in this day and age?
Well, apparently he changed his handle to Super Tough Scene, aka Sports Center, but the previous account handle was called Barry McCockiner, and apparently he's been doing this on more levels than just sports, but he's been sending out false information and getting people to bite.
Wow.
It's the following tweet says, "It appears I have done it again. Ha ha ha."
Well, I mean, good for this person, guy, girl, whoever it may be. Congrats to them this is like masterful level troll. This is like tweet of God level troll.
Yeah. I mean, it basically, if you can get in, like you said, in the age of this media frenzy of wanting to be first, in journalism, kind of taking a back seat to just, the gotcha phase.
Yep.
I mean, he gotched. I don't know if that's a word, but.
Well, I mean, in this day and age, basically anything's
I
a
can make
word.
anything up, right? Yeah,
You-
he
you
gotched
can
him.
Drop vowels. You can smush two words together. You can do whatever the hell you want. And apparently it's a word, so we're going to count it.
All right, he gotched him.
Yeah. It's not going to catch on, but we're going to call it a word.
Hey, now that they can see us and our pretty faces, they may be willing to say gotched him.
Maybe.
Hey,
We'll see.
bootylicious was not a word at one point. You can make it happen. It's in the dictionary. bro.
Why is that your example? Why was that the first thing that came to your mind?
Because
that you
I'll
had
never
to compare it to?
I'll never forget. I was appalled's not the right word, but I was more in the what the fuck stage of when I saw an article that said that bootylicious was officially part of Merriam-Webster's dictionary.
You couldn't have gone with like Homer Simpson's dough. You
I
couldn't have
don't
gone
remember
with
seeing that
selfie. Yeah, I mean, dough is in the. It's not even just Merriam-Webster's. It's Old English Dictionary. Like it's in the OED. Like it's that official.
Bootylicious came to mind first, man, for obvious reasons.
God.
Sorry,
yeah.
Gritty.
We start with porn, and now we're talking about bootylicious. I mean, this is just off the fucking rails at this
There's a theme to this podcast.
Yes, there is.
All
The
right,
theme
switching
is,
from
never mind.
bootylicious, stay in the NFL. We've got two players actually now that have tested positive. Brian Allen of the Rams and the more recognizable name Von Miller from the Denver Broncos.
Yes. Yeah, and I don't think this was unexpected. You know, virus has been, it's super contagious. It's been going around everywhere. I think we finally hit 700,000 cases in the U.S. I think, especially with a lot of the younger people, a lot of the fitter people probably have a greater sense of feeling of invincibility. So they probably thought either they wouldn't get it, or if they did get it, it wouldn't be that bad, which in most cases, they're probably going to be correct. So, everybody fully expects both of these players to beat it unless there's some kind of underlying health issue that they didn't know about that went undiagnosed for whatever reason. Probably not, because of the way that these guys have tested constantly throughout their professional careers.
Yeah,
So,
I don't think any of those stones would be unturned at this point in their career.
Exactly. So, I mean, they should be fine, but, for everybody that's been a part of this thing that is, in favor of the complete shutdown, the argument has always been, it's not about you. It's not about Von Miller. It's about the people in which Von Miller would interact with. So, like, if he has, I don't know Von Miller's life at all, but let's say he has a personal shopper that does the grocery shopping for him. Von Miller could give it to that person now, who then maybe goes home and they have, older relatives with them who are now going to catch it as well, or potentially going to catch it. And they may not be able to recover, even though Von Miller does. So these are the kinds of things that I think people have to keep in mind when they're being kind of cavalier about going outside, shopping around and everything else. It's not about you. It's about, 2, 3, 4 steps down the road of somebody that could catch it and potentially not recover.
Right. And the good thing, especially about it not being the NFL season right now, we're not even in workouts or OTAs or voluntaries or anything. You shouldn't see a spread in the NFL because these guys aren't together.
Right.
At least they're not supposed to be at this point. So I think the NFL is kind of dodging a bullet in that spot by the timing of these two guys. And then remember, we talked about Sean Payton in a previous episode, also testing positive for COVID.
Right.
So I think the NFL is probably the only sport still without the negative publicity of this COVID virus. Obviously, the NBA was the first to experience it with the Jazz. I haven't heard anything from the MLB as far as a positive player being tested or a player testing positive.
I don't think I have either.
I think there were 1 or 2 Canucks or minor league players in the NHL that have gotten it, but the NFL,
Canucks, one of the Senators got it as well.
or Senators, sorry, not Canucks.
Yeah. And maybe somebody from the Avalanche, but don't quote me on that.
But the NFL has had positive tests, and I feel like they're kind of getting a pass here. And not that there's really anything to harp on, but I feel like because the others were in season, at least. Well, actually, they were all theoretically in season. I mean, baseball was in spring training.
Yep.
But they were all playing, so they're being a little bit more lambasted or blasted because they were playing under the guise of that we're going to continue until we're told not to. And I think the Rudy Gobert thing was the straw that broke the camel's back at that point. But
Yeah.
the NFL's gotten relatively unscathed as far as criticism, at least from what I see, despite the fact that they have players as well tested positive and coaches.
Which is amazing because of all the shit that the NFL normally gets for how bad Roger Goodell is as a human being and leader and just everything else. But I think you're right. I think the NBA probably is more deserving than any other league because they kind of brush it off. The players were brushing it off. And, the Rudy Gobert thing, especially with him touching the microphones and doing his
Yeah, that was
act.
a tough one.
Yeah, that wasn't a great look. And then the NHL, even without the positive test, had to say, we have so many teams that share facilities with NBA teams, we can't risk it. So they shut down even without a positive test. And then MLB, I think part of MLB was they saw the writing on the wall, and part of it was, if the NBA and the NHL are both shutting down, we probably should too. So that made sense. But yeah, the NFL is just – they're kind of sliding under the radar. Like you said, they're not in prime season. They had to cancel the live in-person draft for a virtual draft, which is going to be interesting at best. So I think if that goes off without a hitch, I think you're right. I think the NFL escapes basically all criticism for their handling of this.
Which, I mean, in their defense, it's not to say, like you said, Von Miller could have gone to the grocery store and got this. He could have gone to the gym, I mean, these people don't live the same lives we do, and who knows where he could have gotten it from. I mean, where I live over here, we take walks, the producer and I, and every day, even with the stay-at-home order, we see a pickup basketball game down near the park.
Yep. And
I know you and I have gone back and forth about golfing, but I believe I'm socially distancing far more than the pickup game down at the park.
Yeah, oh, you absolutely are. And, I think the criticism of the golfing wasn't the fact that you were outdoors and golfing. It was the fact that the people with whom you were golfing are not people that you're living with. So
right. No, I understand. I'm just giving you shit.
Oh, no, I get that. But, I mean, for me, it was just like, none of it is good. Let's put it that way.
I'm going to come over there and give you a big kiss.
Oh, for fuck's sake, no. I think I actually have to go see a coworker because my wife she makes masks. Like, she's a sewer, she has fabric, so she's been making masks. She volunteered to make a couple for one of my coworkers, and then we realized that we don't have a way to mail it to them. So,
like, no bubble wrap or nothing?
Right. So we have no way to get it to them aside from, like, either me going to her place and dropping it off or her coming to, like, our front door where I could just leave it outside or something. Like, we haven't figured out the logistics of it yet. But
contactless delivery.
I realized that was not an ideal situation.
Yeah, that's fair. You'll work it out, though. I mean,
yeah,
give you an excuse to get out. It's still nice to get out of the house every once in a while.
Yeah, no, I was doing that for a while, taking the dog for longer and longer walks. Actually, I used to walk, like, up towards your place and then go even further west before cutting back to the north and coming back down to my place. But, we've cut out, like, unless I'm going to the store with mask on and everything else, then we're basically not leaving the property. We just, tire the dog out by throwing tennis balls around in the backyard.
There you go.
Do what we can do.
All right, let's switch gears into some draft talk. We're going to have I'll be writing an article up for vegasquares.com on my draft prop betting picks.
Ah, yes.
Also, I will be on with Philly Pete. He'll be hosting a draft special in rounds 2 and 3. He'll be the host, but I'll be joining him as a guest host. So you can check us out on 12 ounce. I guess that's Friday. Rounds 2 and 3 are on Friday.
Okay.
So I got a couple of prop bets here that I wanted to run by you. We can talk about these. The easiest one, obviously, that's on every book here is the number 1 overall pick in the 2020 draft. And the 3 options with odds are right now, Joe Burrow is minus 250.
Okay.
Chase Young is plus 200, and Andrew Thomas is plus 350. I got to imagine even taking minus 250, this feels like free money, no?
Yeah, it really does. I think the only thing that could screw it up is if Cincinnati trades the pick. I don't know why they would. I don't imagine that they would, but if they did, then obviously you're looking at a team with different needs.
Sure. But I think anybody trading up to 1 is going for Burrow, no?
You would think. I mean,
Nobody's trading up to 1 for Chase Young, even though I think talent-wise he's the best player in the draft. But how much King's ransom are you giving up to get Chase Young?
Right, unless it's a team like Arizona or Washington that just spent a high draft pick on a young prospect quarterback that they still want to roll for another couple of years. If they decide that they want to get, extra offensive line help, or I don't know who these other players are that you're even mentioning. So,
right. Well, Washington's picking number 2, so I could see someone making a trade for Washington or with Washington to move up to number 2, who wants Joe Burrow and Chase Young. Either one.
Yeah.
And they'll say, look, we'll be happy with whatever slides down here.
I could see that. But, yeah, I think for the most part, especially with Cincinnati, they're not good, and they need a quarterback. And you could certainly that's the pick. I mean, that has to be the pick.
If you're Cincinnati, yeah. I mean, even though, like I said, talent-wise, Chase Young's probably the best in the draft. He's from Ohio.
But so is Joe Burrow. He's from Ohio originally, too.
Yeah, he played for Ohio State, too. But you can't take Chase Young with the explanation that he's the best player in the draft and then have Joe Burrow go on to be, a 5-time Super Bowl winner.
Yeah.
You just can't. You can get less flack for drafting Burrow and having him be a bust and Chase Young being, a Von Miller type than you can for drafting Chase Young, having him be a bust, and Joe Burrow being a Peyton Manning type.
Sure. No, and that makes complete sense because we see it all the time. Teams taking a quarterback number 1 overall. Fuck, I just realized something about that troll account with the Kaepernick thing that I'll get back to in a second.
Okay.
But, I mean, we see teams take quarterbacks with the number 1 pick overall, and they're busts, and nobody blames the team because every single person out there expects this quarterback to do well. They may have different ideas as to what it means to be a success, but every one of them thinks that, whoever is picked at the number 1 spot is going to do well, is going to be, the guy. And then, 2, 3, 4 years down the road, whenever it may be, if they're not, then you just shrug and you move on. Like, nobody laments the pick.
Especially now with the rookie contracts, you're not setting your franchise back 10 years either.
Exactly. I think Jamarcus Russell was the last time people are like,
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. You look at, I'm going to go off the top of my head here. Peyton Manning, drafted number 1. Obviously, he's a surefire first ballot Hall of Famer. But
people even were debating when he was coming out that Ryan Leaf was the better pick to pick at number 1.
Yeah, and look how much Indianapolis, I guess you could say, dodged a bullet by making the right pick. Yeah. But you have, let's see. Who would you consider these a bust or they got value? You have Sam Bradford with the Rams.
Oh, he has to be a bust.
All right. What about Andrew Luck with the Colts?
Andrew Luck was a success. Even without winning a championship, Andrew Luck's a success.
Michael Vick.
He's a success.
Cam Newton.
He's got to be a success.
Matt Stafford.
Token Tony's not here to fight me on it, but I think he's a success. Even though the team has not been successful, the numbers that he puts up are video game numbers some years, so you have to consider him a success.
Yeah, so like you said, Jamarcus Russell obviously was a bust.
Yeah.
But yeah, we don't, like you said, Cam Newton, you could consider his time unsuccessful, but I wouldn't consider him a bust. Even though they made the Super Bowl, he won an MVP. Individually, he had a good career in Carolina, but obviously it didn't lead them to a championship. Who was the last number 1 pick? I guess Peyton Manning's the last number 1 pick at quarterback to win a title.
Ooh. Yeah, he's got to be.
Right?
Yeah.
I don't have all of them in front of me, but that's what, 23 years we're going on? 22, 23 years?
Something like that, yeah. But again, even without winning a title,
you got to take one.
You have to take one. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, because you just mentioned his name, Andrew Luck. Part of that troll account, one of the posts that they put was Andrew Luck is coming out of retirement and he's being traded to the Patriots. And that didn't quite get the traction that the Kaepernick tweet did, but it was from that same account, and that kind of made me laugh because I saw it and initially I was like, "Oh my God, what
That would be huge.
fuck tanking. Let's actually go with Andrew Luck." And then I realized that it was from that account, so you knew it was fake.
All right, sticking with quarterbacks. Tua Tagovailoa. He's a guy whose draft stock is roller coastering all over the place.
Yeah.
The prop bet I see here is one of several offerings. His draft position 1 through 10 is plus 200. 11 through 20 is plus 150. 21 through 32 is plus 300. And rounds 2 and beyond is plus 450.
I think I'd sprinkle it on those last two going 21 to 32 and second rounder later.
Yep. 21 to 32 is plus 300 and rounds 2 and beyond is plus 450.
Yeah. So I think I would grab a couple of both of those, especially apparently the Wonderlic scores got released and Tua did not do well.
He did not. No, I think he got like a 12.
Yeah. So I think that is going to hurt his stock. And, there's always going to be the talk about, and I hate saying it this way, but let's face it, this is a league where non-white quarterbacks are looked at as a completely different breed of player. And coaches and GMs either love them or hate them. And this is, I think this is something that is going to hurt to his stock. And I think that that's something that's going to drive him late into the first or possibly even into the second. So I would feel comfortable with both of those later picks, especially at that price.
Yeah, I mean, if you can get that kind of – yeah, I think it's hard to say. I can't imagine Miami and the Chargers passing on him at 5 and 6. I think if he gets by them, then I think your bets are really going to start looking juicy. I think Herbert's going to be taken by one of those two. Whether I agree that Herbert is better than Tua or not, I don't know. But I feel like the Chargers really like Justin Herbert in that spot. It's going to be an interesting one because you're right. He has like Aaron Rodgers kind of slide capability. I mean,
yeah.
I'm trying to think of who else would even really need a quarterback.
And that's kind of the problem. As soon as you start, you get past those teams in the bottom 4, 5, 6, all of a sudden those teams have quarterbacks that they either like or love, and they're just looking for other pieces to fill in around them. So, yeah, it's a difficult situation for him, especially with, you talked about Herbert. Herbert's what, Oregon?
Justin Herbert's from Oregon, yes.
And then you've got Jake Fromm. You've got, what's his name, kid coming out of Washington?
Jacob Eason, yep.
Eason, and then, and then you've got Tua. And then, sometimes it's going to be about ability. Sometimes it's just going to be about physical build. And sometimes, like I said, it could be a white or non-white quarterback thing. So I think Tua dropping in that first round, to me, feels like free money, just like the Joe Burrow going at number 1 feels like free money.
Yeah, I kind of selfishly am hoping for not only our purposes of watching him, but his family, being from Hawaii. I kind of hope he ends up in LA with the Chargers, Tua, speaking of. I wouldn't mind going to see him. He's, to me, the most interesting player of this draft as far as watchability. I know we're making up words now, but what do you call that?
Jesus
like,
Christ.
What would that word be? Like,
what are you trying to say? I don't even know what you're trying to say.
I'm going to sit down and watch a game because of Tua Tagovailoa.
Oh, I fuck it. Yeah, watchability. Fine. Let's go with it.
So that is something I would be interested in. Obviously, for him and his family, Hawaii is a very moderately timed plane ride away. I don't know how long the flight is, 5 hours or so.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think it's 4, 5, 6 hours somewhere.
It's a lot shorter than a flight to Miami, let me tell you,
Yeah,
from
fair
Hawaii.
enough.
So I'm hoping that he ends up in LA with the Chargers, which I believe they are picking 6th. I don't trust anybody to handle. I don't trust anybody in the Dolphins organization to handle a quarterback with his injury history properly.
No, definitely not.
So, all right, moving on. Here's another one, and this one's geared towards you.
Oh boy.
The New England Patriots' first selection in any round, so it doesn't necessarily have to be a first round pick in case they trade out.
Okay.
Will be at plus 135 an offensive player, or minus 165 a defensive player.
I think I take the plus money and go offense. I think we saw what happened with Brady in that offense without having the weapons around him, and I could very easily see the Patriots taking either a wide receiver or a tight end, or maybe offensive line, but I think the line's going to be pretty much intact from last year, except for Newhouse was fucking terrible, that backup guy that they had to keep putting in because everybody got hurt.
Well, and what's his name signed with Miami? I can't remember his name now. Good talk.
Yeah, whoever it is, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, he's gone. So
he gone.
Yeah, a lot of projections have, which is kind of ironic that it's plus money. A lot of projections have the Patriots drafting a wide receiver or the quarterback, Jordan Love, out of Utah State, which I've seen probably more of his games than the average Bear because Utah State's on some of these obscure CBS network channels here on the West Coast that we're on. And I think he's very Colin Kaepernick-esque, but not quite as talented. And I don't think he's worth a first-round pick, especially with the pressure of having to, succeed number 12.
Yeah.
I've made my case known that I want them to draft Jake Fromm, but I don't know if I want them to draft him with the I believe they're the 23rd pick.
23rd, yeah.
So I'm going to take the plus money with offensive player too, and say they grab a receiver because the receiving class is very deep in this draft. So I would take the plus 135 as well and go offensive player.
Well, if it's deep, then that's would probably entice Belichick to wait till the second round to do that. But I think
they might trade out.
They might trade out, but I think tight end's the bigger need. And obviously, if the Patriots decide that they're not super happy with Stidham, then they're might be looking at quarterback too, whether it be Fromm, whether it be Utah fucking State. Are you kidding me? Or whether it be one of these other.
It was Utah State. You were right.
Yeah, no, I know Utah State exists. Actually, their basketball team had like the best home winning percentage in college basketball for a number of years. Yeah, because of the crowd. I just them as a football powerhouse, like, way to break the magic there.
I know it was. Woo! I could move the microphone.
Yeah. Did you get it on the same way that I set it up for you at the end of the last?
Yeah, it's on the swivel in the chair.
Yeah.
I've had it ever since you found it that way.
Nice. I like it. I'm actually looking forward to get back into the studio because I move around a lot, as people have seen while sitting here.
Well, the beautiful thing is you can just Zoom meeting from the other chair over there.
What a fucking waste of technology that would be.
But it's awesome. Now we can have video, and you can still be in the same vicinity as me. We got to maintain our 6 feet, though. Is this chair in between 6 feet?
I sincerely doubt it.
All right, last draft prop we have here. Again, I'll have an article giving my draft props up on vegassquares.com here before the draft. So you can check that out as well. And also we'll be featured, guest host Philly Pete has invited me on. So hopefully I don't screw that up. So, all right, last draft prop here.
Yeah.
When will Jalen Hurts be drafted? Now you have a couple of options.
Do I know who Jalen Hurts is?
He was the quarterback for Oklahoma, who's kind of a scat back, but not really. His talents don't necessarily, depending on who you ask, are going to translate to the NFL as a quarterback.
Gotcha. Okay. Let's see. Hey, almost the same birthday as me.
I can give you a different one if you want.
No, I'm looking at it, and actually I pulled up Jalen Hurts, and the first thing I see is Mel Kiper Jr. says the Patriots like Oklahoma quarterback Jalen Hurts. So that's interesting.
Well, there you go. All right, so the options are Rounds 2 and 3 is minus 120.
Ooh, okay.
Rounds 4 through 7 is plus 300. Round 1 is plus 500.
Oh,
And undrafted is plus 550.
I mean, I know nothing about this guy, but I think there are enough teams that either need starting or backup quarterbacks. I can't imagine he goes undrafted.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that. We can rule that one out right away.
Yeah. Oh, what'd you say round 1 was?
Round 1 is plus 500. My personal pick, I would rule out round 1 right away as well. So
Yeah.
I would be looking at 2 and 3 minus 120, 4 through 7 plus 300. That's my personal opinion.
Yeah, and I mean, again, I don't know much about this guy, but
He's going to
obviously
get drafted. I will agree with that.
Yeah, that feels pretty safe. I'm trying to think if there are teams that, because I can't imagine two teams or a team would draft 2 quarterbacks like we saw in Washington when they got RG3 and Kirk Cousins. So any of the teams that need, big help for a quarterback would probably get one of the other bigger, well-known names. I'm just trying to think if there's a team out there that would overvalue for a backup quarterback and go 2nd or 3rd round, or if
Well, Jalen Hurts, remember, was the quarterback at Alabama before Tua came along.
Right. Oh, okay.
Led the team to an undefeated season, won the national title. Tua came in and had to win the national title, though.
Right. Huh. I don't know. I think somebody out there might go 2nd, 3rd. I think I would stick with that, even though it's minus money. What'd you say? Minus 120, 125, whatever it is. Yeah, I think you pay the vig on that and just go with the 2nd and 3rd round and take the safe pick there.
Yeah, all those odds provided courtesy of mybookie.ag. I know that 12 Ounce has a promo code with them, but unfortunately we are not allowed to advertise MyBookie AG. So you can check out 12 Ounce Sports to get the promo code for MyBookie AG, even though I just pimped them like 4 times.
I was going to say, that's
I can say the name. I just can't say that we're affiliated.
that was pretty Jeremy Clarkson of you.
I don't know what that is, but
You haven't seen Top Gear or Grand Tour or anything?
no.
Oh, he was a master of, like, he would drive a car and then, say that he wasn't allowed to advertise. He's like, I wish I could tell you it got 18 miles to the gallon. I wish I could tell you that it goes 0 to 60 in 3.5 seconds, but I can't. I'm not allowed to.
Fair enough. So, all right, let's wrap it up here. Thank the sponsors once again, 12 Ounce Sports Radio and Seat Giant, promo code 12 Ounce Sports, where you can get discounted concert, sporting event, and theater tickets whenever those all come back. So I know I pimped the sponsor, and then I realized, well, they got nothing to sell right now.
Yeah, it's a little rough. I wonder if people are going to start doing virtual concerts you have to pay for, or like.
I don't know about pay for, but I've seen virtual concerts like Twitter and.
Oh yeah.
You know what? He was big actually doing the virtual concerts lately, and the only reason I know this because the producer. Kind of filled me in on it. MySpace. A lot of people are putting concerts on MySpace.
Really? MySpace is still a thing? I gotta see if
I didn't either. I didn't know it still existed. I mean,
I have to see if
obviously
my
not
account
your
still
huge
works.
artists like Timberlake and Madonna, just off the top of my head, but like some of your bands, probably bands that you're interested in, they may be on there too.
Wow, I gotta see if that's definitely not the right password. Let's see.
Reactivate your MySpace account.
Invalid. What's going on here?
Just email Tom. Is he still around?
No, he sold out and then said, fuck it, see it, boys.
Smart man.
Yeah. All right. I don't think this is going to work, but damn, that's funny as shit. Yeah, I don't think that. I used to have a MySpace account. I loved MySpace back in the day.
I had one for a little bit, but I never, once Facebook became a thing and it was only, for college, kids, and it was it felt exclusive. I don't think I ever really went on MySpace too much.
Yeah, I was late to adopt Facebook, but I love MySpace. Friendster was another one.
Grinder.
No, not Grind. Makeout Club was actually popular, especially around Boston, like bigger cities back east. Makeout
Is that like
Club
a
was
Tinder
huge.
before Tinder?
Sorta, yeah. It was. It was basically like you set up profiles, and it was specifically for like hookups. So yeah, I guess it like Tinder. Although I guess Tinder's been more about like they've had a bunch of marriages and shit. So I think it's becoming more serious. I don't know.
People get married on Tinder?
Yeah, apparently, and like it's the damnedest thing. Which my wife and I all the time we say we're so glad that we met before Tinder became a thing because that would have been brutal trying to get on there.
Because y'all would have just hooked up and then gone your separate ways.
Pretty much, yeah.
Fair enough.
That was my MO for a number of years.
I figured it was Grinder.
Definitely not Grindr.
All right.
Nice
Well,
try, though.
we appreciate you listening and I guess now watching. So
Yeah.
new territory for the Vegas Squares.
This is the dawning of a new age, and I have to be very grateful that Token Tony did not join us because if anybody saw his ugly fucking mug, everybody would have shut this thing off.
Well, the thing is, I was considering inviting him to the next podcast. He ain't doing nothing.
That is true. And if he is being told to social distance by his new girlfriend,
This is perfect.
this is perfect. All right, fuck it. Get him on here. Put a
We'll-
bag over his head. if he's
We'll try
really
for
bad.
Token Tony on the next podcast.
All right, that'll work.
All right. Well, we appreciate you guys. Catch us on the next one. Catch us on Twitter at Vegas Squares. Email us if you'd like, Vegas Squares Podcast at gmail.com. We are out. We will catch you on the next one.